ready to turn that passion into profit.
Let's do it.
Now, we both know there are a lot of different ways to make money as an artist online.
Right. And the goal here is,
To give you a clear picture of each path's potential and what it takes to succeed.
absolutely. We're talking the nitty-gritty details, pros and cons, maybe even uncovering some surprises along the way.
Exactly. So let's start with something many aspiring online artists dream of: selling their art directly.
Makes sense. It's the most straightforward approach. And print-on-demand platforms have made it more accessible than ever.
For sure. Sites like Redbubble and Zazzle, they're super popular for a reason. You create the art, upload it, and they handle production, shipping, customer service, you name it.
You're basically running your own mini storefront without the logistical headaches.
Right. And one of the best parts about these platforms, you get to set your own prices, which means you control how much profit you make on each sale.
Exactly. Although that can be a double-edged sword, right? You have the control. But figuring out the right pricing strategy can be a challenge in itself.
Totally. It's all about finding that sweet spot, a price that's attractive to buyers, but also reflects the value of your work. Now, on the other hand, you've got platforms like Society6.
Okay, which use a fixed royalty system.
Yep. So instead of setting your own prices, you earn a percentage of each sale. It's a simpler approach, but you have less control over your earnings.
Definitely something to consider when choosing the platform that's right for you.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of platforms, we have to address the elephant in the room: AI-generated art.
Right.
It's changing the game in a lot of ways, and some platforms are adapting faster than others. Cafe Press, for instance, has been pretty clear about its stance on AI art.
Right. They're being very upfront about what they will and won't allow.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show it's so important to stay updated on the policies of whichever platform you choose.
Absolutely, because things are changing so quickly in the digital art world, and honestly, that's part of what makes it so exciting.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you've got your designs up on Redbubble or Zazzle or Society6.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You've got everything from t-shirts and phone cases to tote bags and even shower curtains, all with your art on it.
And someone out there, they're sipping their morning coffee, right? Putting together a puzzle.
And they realize, hey, I know that art style. That's from one of my favorite artists.
It's like your art is out there living its best life in homes all over the world.
And that's the magic of print on demand.
It really is incredible when you think about it. You're reaching a global audience without ever leaving your studio.
It really is amazing to think about the reach you can have as an artist in the digital age.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be you were kind of limited to, local galleries or craft fairs, but now,
Now it's a whole different ballgame.
for sure.
And speaking of different approaches,
Yeah.
let's talk about commissions.
Commissions.
Okay.
Where the client's vision meets the artist's skill.
Exactly. And, it can be a really rewarding way to work, too. You're basically bringing someone else's ideas to life.
Right. And there's something really special about that collaborative process.
Yeah.
But I will say, communication is key.
Makes sense. I mean, you're working with someone else's vision.
Exactly.
All right.
So you need to be super clear on what they want, what your process is, all of that.
For sure. And of course, pricing can get a little tricky with commissions, too.
Oh, yeah. There's no one-size-fits-all answer there, is there?
Not really. Our research showed prices for commissions can vary wildly. We're talking like a huge range depending on the artist's experience, the complexity of the piece, even just their reputation.
Right. And the medium. Let's not forget about that.
Oh, for sure. A watercolor portrait is going to command a different price than, say, a digital illustration.
Exactly. But just to throw out a hypothetical,
Okay.
let's say you specialize in watercolor portraits and you're charging, say, $500 per portrait. You land 5 commissions a month. That's a $2,500.
Which just goes to show the earning potential with commissions can be significant.
Absolutely. But it's not just about the money, is it? It's about connecting with clients, creating something truly unique, and building a reputation for your craft.
Definitely. And that can be incredibly fulfilling.
It can. Now, moving on from the one-on-one world of commissions to something a bit more, shall we say, multifaceted.
Okay. You're talking about memberships, right?
Right. Building a community around your art,
Yeah.
like having your own little art club.
I like it. And it seems like a lot of artists are going this route these days, using platforms like Patreon.
They are, and for good reason. I mean, it's a great way to connect with your audience on a deeper level, to share exclusive content, and to generate a more predictable income stream.
So how does it work? I mean, how do these membership things actually work?
Well, most artists use a tiered pricing model, right?
Hmm.
So, for example, you might have a basic tier
Okay.
that gives members access to, say, behind-the-scenes content, work-in-progress updates, maybe early access to new pieces, and that could be like $10 a month.
Okay, so pretty accessible.
Exactly. And then you can have a premium tier
Okay.
for, let's say, $25 a month.
Right.
And that gives them everything from the basic tier, but also adds in things like live Q&A sessions, maybe personalized critiques. Some artists even do limited edition merchandise or discounts for their top tier members.
So it's really about creating different levels of access and engagement.
Exactly. It's all about giving your audience options and letting them choose the level of involvement that's right for them.
Which makes a lot of sense. And it seems like a great way to build a loyal following.
It really is.
Okay.
But I will say, managing a membership community takes work.
Oh, I bet.
You're constantly creating new content, engaging with your members, and making sure everyone feels valued. It's a commitment, that's for sure.
That makes sense. You're essentially building a whole little ecosystem around your art.
Yeah, precisely. All right, now, let's switch gears from building a dedicated community to something a little different. Stock art.
Ah, stock art. It's one of those things that's been around forever but still feels kind of mysterious.
Right. Like, is it actually a viable option for artists these days?
Exactly. Or is it all, big agencies and endless scrolling through generic images?
Well, it's definitely changed a lot over the years. It's not just about cheesy stock photos anymore.
Okay. So there's hope for independent artists.
Oh, absolutely. But it's important to go into it with realistic expectations.
Makes sense. So what's the reality of selling stock art today?
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that it's very much a numbers game.
Okay.
Instead of focusing on creating one masterpiece, you need to think about creating a large volume of high-quality images.
So more about quantity over singularity then.
You could say that.
Yeah,
It's about having a diverse portfolio that caters to a wide range of potential buyers.
that makes sense. So what about the financial side of things?
Well, there's a misconception out there that you can get rich quick with stock art.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, but the reality is, it's not always that glamorous.
Okay.
While some platforms might boast about high earning potential per image, the truth is royalties can range from like $7.25 to $2.50 per sale.
Really? Wow, okay, so not exactly a gold mine then.
Not usually. You'd need a ton of downloads to make a substantial income. But it can be a great way to diversify your income streams and potentially reach a wider audience.
So a good side hustle maybe, but not necessarily a primary income source.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, for artists who are passionate about teaching and guiding others on their creative journeys,
Hmm.
there's always coaching and mentoring.
So it sounds like coaching and mentoring, it's a very different approach than, say, print on demand or stock art.
It definitely is. It's much more personal. You're not just selling a product, you're selling your time, your expertise, and your guidance.
Right, like you're invested in their journey as an artist.
Exactly. And that can be incredibly rewarding, but also demanding. You're building a relationship with each client, understanding their goals, and helping them overcome challenges.
It's like being a teacher, a cheerleader, and a therapist all rolled into one.
That's a great way to put it. And because of that level of personalized attention, coaching often commands a higher price point.
That makes sense. So what kind of rates are we talking about here?
Well, it varies depending on the coach's experience and niche, but it's not uncommon to see hourly rates of like $100 or more.
Wow. Okay, so the earning potential is definitely there.
It is. But remember, it's not just about the money. It's about the passion for sharing your knowledge and seeing your clients thrive.
Absolutely. And, it's amazing to see how all of these different approaches, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, right?
Right.
Like, you could start with print on demand to generate some passive income, then use those earnings to invest in building an online course, and then maybe even offer coaching to your most dedicated students.
Exactly. It's all about finding the combination that works best for you and your goals.
Exactly. And speaking of goals, I think it's important to remember that building an online art business, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
It really is. There's no overnight success here.
Right. It takes time, effort, and a whole lot of hustle to make it work. But with the right approach and a bit of creativity, the possibilities are endless.
They really are. And, one thing that stood out to me from our research, well, it was something that wasn't mentioned.
Oh, and what was that?
NFTs. Remember how everyone was talking about NFTs a while back?
Oh, yeah, like NFTs were going to change everything about the art world.
Right. And While that initial hype has kind of died down, I'm curious to see if they still hold any potential for artists.
Yeah, it's definitely a question worth exploring. Are NFTs just a fad, or are they here to stay? Something to think about, for sure. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about everything from selling prints to coaching, and even touched on the wild world of NFTs. But I think the biggest takeaway here is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to building an online art business.
Couldn't agree more. It's all about finding the path that aligns with your unique skills, passions, and goals. And never being afraid to experiment and try new things.
So well said. It's your journey, your art, your way. And for anyone listening, if you're feeling overwhelmed, just remember, you don't have to do it all. Just start with one thing, take that first step, and see where it leads you. You might be surprised by what you can achieve. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying.